The Summer Showdown starts today, and we actually have a rematch between the Mayhem and the Outlaws, which is actually really interesting, because the way these teams play each other makes for some extremely competitive and interesting Overwatch. The last match went to Game 5 between these guys, and I think that's because of the DPS duos matchup, honestly. But first off, I want to talk about why the Mayhem, I think, are one of the best capable teams for taking down the Shock. But look at this fight. I want to talk about some of the things I don't like from the Mayhem first. First off, Dante's able to draw out the Immortality Field on that pulse bomb, which is really nice. And then a really awkward Immortality Field from Gangnam Jin comes in, and that's already Immortality Field and your ultimate from your Baptiste wasted by this time begins. Yaki's able to come in, but look how well Meko deals with that, and Raucus in the background. And I'll get into that a little bit about how I think that these teams are some of the best at actually dealing, or the Houston Outlaws are able to deal with the Genji well. For most of the map, but that the Yaki's flexibility between the Tracer and the Genji is what could give them the chance to actually take down the Shock. So with the Houston Outlaws taking this, the reverse sweep on the cusp of happening, let's skip forward until Oasis after Houston Outlaws will end up taking the snap, and we'll discuss what I like about the Mayhem. Alright, getting into this last map, we have Nepal. Sorry, not Oasis, I think I said. Nepal is going to go in the favor of the Mayhem 2-0. But what's the reason for that? First off, I want to talk about the series as a whole as a matchup. Linkser and Dante, I think, look great together. They were able to pull it back to Game 5 after the first map showed Dante and Blase. And I really do like Linkser and Dante more. I think Dante Blase probably makes a bit more sense for round 1 control. They were on Oasis. But I really like Linkser and Dante together. But their matchup against Yaki and BQB is where it gets interesting. BQB and Yaki. BQB is a great Ashe and a great Widowmaker, just like Linkser. They can match up against each other. And Dante and Yaki, usually this past week, we've seen so much matching of the Tracer versus Tracer if it happens, or the Genji versus Genji. But the thing here is Genji and Dante and the Tracer were competing. A lot of times I felt like teams experimented with Tracer versus Genji. It wasn't like it was always a mirror match. But the Genji almost always got the better of them. But despite that, Dante was able to keep up enough that the Houston Outlaws were able to bring it back. But I really think the Outlaws struggled against Yaki. And that's going to be one of the main reasons that the Mayhem can take down the Shock if we see it happen. There's a lot of talk about teams like the Paris Eternal specifically with Sparkle's insane play. A little bit of Dallas. I think Doha played well, but I don't know if it's enough to take down the Shock. But I want to rewind this a few minutes, sorry. On this first attack, we see Yaki and BQB able to pressure, and along with just like the rest of the team, pressure the Outlaws into this little corner. At that point, it's going to open up anytime the Outlaws peek this. There's going to be so much spam damage from the Genji, any Ashe Dynamite, the accretions, like right there we saw a really good one. And the Houston Outlaws are already poked out to the point where they have to get out and regroup for a second while Dante's trying to keep the point. And this is what I mean where the Tracer really struggles against the Genji. With the armor and the overall damage buffs and stuff, look how much Dante struggles. And he never even gets him below half health. Off screen, I'm pretty sure Raucus got killed by a halt and combination with BQB. So unlike right here, that crossfire that BQB is able to set up, really solid positioning and team play from the Mayhem to open up these angles for the DPS. The Mayhem, Fate, Gargoyle, Chris, and Gangnam Jin were all holding the front line so well there, while Yaki was able to duel the Tracer and BQB was able to pick off the backline. And now coming in this next fight, the Mayhem are getting really close to a lot of key ultimates. And the Mayhem still haven't even the Outlaws. The Mayhem are getting close to ultimates, and the Outlaws haven't even gotten a kill yet, it feels like. Dante again just kind of messing with the shield here, and look at that Immortality Field, is able to pressure out that window. Linkser gets caught again off screen, while Dante's struggling to win the duel, even though he has the armor pack this time, which is going to be key. And right here, Raucus, this is bad. Earlier I showed you Raucus got cut off by the off angle. I didn't really mind that too much. That's kind of just BKB hitting his shots that his team put him in a good position for. But look where Raucus is right now. What's he doing? Like literally, how did he get out here and still have full health? I don't even know how he got there. And the team's just going to collapse on him and absolutely roast him before anyone can get there to help. The players do try to come to help, gets rid of Immortality Field, and because they tried to bail out the Brigida, the entire rest of the team goes down. And that was a really, really weird play from Raucus. I wasn't super impressed with him. Now, again, it's kind of like one of those things where you don't always notice the Brigida play. And I'd have to go. I wanted to go in the replay viewer to watch it, but the Houston Outlaws Mayhem game wasn't in there, and so it's kind of like one of those things you don't always see it. But when I do notice it, I wasn't impressed with him at all. And I know he was subbed in after map 1, and I'd like to see them mess around with that a little bit because all season I thought he's been a bit of a letdown. I think either he just plays average or he kind of messes up something like that. And I'm going to rewind one more time here. So I keep getting distracted, I keep forgetting to move on from my point. Right here, the Mayhem are still holding this top point, and the Outlaws have to come to this tiny room again where we have Blade, Rally, Supercharger, and Flux from the Mayhem, and they're going to have to take so much spam here. Linkser stays back away from the main cluster of the Outlaws in order to try to avoid some of this like poke from the tanks, but he ends up getting poked down around half while the rest of the tanks are trying to duel the front. Dante gets killed again, and look how little he did this match. I don't think he's gotten a single final blow. Lynx is able to kill Yaki after using his blade. Again, look how well the Outlaws dealt with that blade. Earlier on that Blizzard World point I showed you, Yaki's blade got dealt with really easily. And the Outlaws look like one of the best teams at dealing with the blade this past week, at least with Yaki's. For a few times there were a few big stops. Obviously in this case it doesn't really matter because the rest of the team was able to clean up after Yaki, but Yaki will move on to Tracer here. And it'll essentially just be a duel here between the Tracer as he's trying to spell out until the rest of the team comes. And it won't really lead to much, but all in all, I think the Mayhem are the best because they show they can play Tracer and Ashe well, and we know that Yaki can he played almost the entire time. He played the Genji pretty well. And the only thing I don't like is the Outlaws were able to deal with it pretty well. The Shock are probably going to be even better. But overall, I think the Florida Mayhem have a flexible DPS duo for what the current meta offers. And they should be able to beat the Outlaws again. After taking to Game 5 today, I think most of what the Mayhem's fault came down to was a few sloppy plays. Like, let's take for example, I showed earlier, kind of like on Blizzard World, that terrible ultimate from Gangnam Jin. But what about Volskaya, where they held for 5 minutes almost on Volskaya point 2 after giving up that massive time bank to win it out, which is insane. But overall, I think the Mayhem are probably better equipped than the Fusion at the moment. I don't know if the Fusion have what it takes in their tank line and support line. I like the Mayhem's back. I want to call them the back four. That's just kind of my idea of it, even though obviously the DPS are usually more in the back line than like the Brigida and the Orisa. But either way, like they're the non-DPS players. I like the Mayhem's chances. I think the Philadelphia Fusion will be a solid matchup for the Shock if they get there again. I don't think they'll get beat 3-0 like they did. We've seen the Mayhem take the Shock to the finals last split, but it wasn't enough quite to get the win. I think they'll do a lot better this time. Obviously here coming to the next one, we see Ruckus get cut out again. And I honestly will be kind of surprised if we see Ruckus get played as much as we did this week. I can see being subbed in for a map or two, but I think they're going to be willing to give their backup support, whose name escapes me at the moment, a chance. Right here we see Linkser pick off Yaki. At this point my analysis is done for the video. I'm just kind of making some extra points as we go on. Overall, I think it'll be an entertaining series. The Mayhem end up taking this point as well. And I don't know if the Outlaws can do it. I really want them to, because Linkser and Dante are one of my favorite DPS duos. And I think Hydration and Meko have come in and done a really nice job with this team. But overall, I think duo by duo, if you go through it, BQB and Yaki versus Linkser and Dante, I think you have to go with Yaki and BQB, simply because the Yaki's Genji is better than anything that Outlaws have to offer, I think. And that after another week of practice, the Mayhem are going to get better at manipulating that. We saw the Paris Eternal do so well with it that it really dominated and put on a show, and now we're all on upset alert for the Eternal, simply because of one good week. And imagine what the Mayhem can do now that we already know they have the potential to be a finals appearance team. And if they can do it with another week of preparation of Yaki on that Genji, they'll be able to get more time practicing how to sync up with that Brigida and the blade and the armor and everything like that. And obviously Yaki's a great tracer too, which will give the Outlaws trouble. Even though I think Dante's a great tracer, I think it'll be a close match. And then, like, honestly, I would not be surprised if it came down. Oh, excuse me. I woke up at 3:30 this morning. I would not be surprised if Dante and Yaki were dueling really close to each other, and like the matchup was really even, and it came down to whoever was having a better day on BQB and Yaki, or BQB and Linkser, I'm sorry, or the tank line matchup. So that's why I think the Mayhem are the best chance at taking down the Shockless split. Just in summary, the Fusion are good, but they don't have the team work and the team overall quality. And the Mayhem have problems, but we've seen it from them before, and the meta fits them really well. But the Outlaws could show them a problem before they get that chance. And so that's one of the matches I'm going to be watching this week. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I've been Emra, and I'll see you next time.